Today's reflection is a challenging one. Recently, I read in the papers and saw some stories on television that really made me stop and think. These have all been stories that had a common theme. A man or a woman makes a decision, and that decision turns out to be destructive to their career, their family, and their lives in general. Standing at a great distance, we read and we hear about these stories, and we think things like, man, that guy's stupid. How could he throw away everything he had on that? Or why would anyone in their right mind do that? So I've given some thought to that. It's easy to criticize and make judgments from the sideline and in hindsight. The truth is, all of us make bad decisions. You know I'm right. It's easy to criticize people who we don't know except by reputation or from a distance. Yet everybody makes bad decisions. You do, I do. All of our bad decisions don't make the newspaper or evening news. We all thank God for that, don't we? Not everybody cares about all of our decisions because we're not in the public eye as much as some other people. Yet, even public figures make bad decisions. The question becomes why? A word has come to my mind as I've reflected on this. It does not matter how bad or how big the decision is. It seems many of our poor decisions are made because of one word, appetite. We make decisions to do things because we have an appetite that wants or even demands to be fed. Let me explain. I looked up the word appetite. The dictionary defines appetite as a natural desire to satisfy bodily needs, especially for food or sexual activity. It's an inclination or a desire. There it is. We make bad decisions because we have these inner desires, inner inclinations and hungers, and we want to feed them. And we do not want to deny those appetites. We want to feed them and satisfy them. For some of us, those appetites have become so strong that they can literally lead us to make decisions that are harmful and destructive to us in some other area of our life. The Bible has a word that is applicable here. It's the word lust. Lust describes what happens when an appetite or a desire is out of control. Lust can be defined as unbridled appetites. We eat until it becomes self-destructive. We allow our sexual appetites to override our common sense. We let our desire or appetite for power or possessions or attention manipulate us into making inappropriate decisions. Solomon, the wise man, wrote in Ecclesiastes 6 and 7, all man's efforts are for his mouth. In other words, we live to please our desires. We have what the Bible calls a carnal nature or a sinful or fleshly nature. That means that we can be controlled by our appetites. The problem here is that nature can never be satisfied. Solomon went on to say in that same verse, yet his appetite is never satisfied. It'll always crave for more. The more we feed it, the more it wants. So it becomes a vicious cycle, and it screams to be fed. We feed it to silence it or satisfy it. Yet feeding it only makes it crave to be fed more. Living to simply satisfy those cravings is dangerous. Paul said in Philippians 3:19, these people are headed for destruction. Their God is their appetite. They bring about shameful things and they think only about life on this earth. You see, when our appetite is our God, we're headed for destruction. That's why people make dumb choices. They're living to feed their fleshly, carnal, or self-centered appetites. Appetites have got to be controlled. Solomon said in Ephesians 6:9, better what the eye sees than the roving of the appetite. The New Living Translation expands on that and says, enjoy what you have rather than desiring what you don't have. Just dreaming about nice things is meaningless, like chasing the wind. We are to learn to enjoy the life we have and to keep our desires under control. That's a mandate from God. God says that to protect us. Here's a great admonition to all of us found in Romans 8:12, verse 6. So letting your sinful nature control your mind leads to death, but letting the Spirit control your mind leads to life and peace. He goes on to say in verses 12 and 13, you have no obligation to do what your sinful nature urges you to do. For if you live by its dictates, you'll die. But if through the power of the Spirit you put to death the deeds of your sinful nature, you will live. We do not have to be dominated by our appetites. God has given us the ability and the strength and the power to keep them under control. This is a strong word for today. I must confess that way too often I let my desires and appetites control me instead of keeping them in check and in balance. So we need to stop and think about this before our appetites do us in. How's your appetite? Do you need some appetites to be suppressed? What desires do you have that tend to want to dominate and control your life? To get help, it starts with coming clean, admitting to God and to others that you have urges and tendencies that pull at you, and without His power, you are powerless to control those. Ask God to give you the strength to bring those appetites under His control. Controlled appetites are good. They lead us to achieve and do great things. Christian life is not a total life of self-denial of all appetites. It is a matter of controlling and disciplining our appetites. It is seeking God to allow Him to help me control my appetites instead of allowing them to control me. It's not even self-control. It's spirit or God control. He has that kind of power. Here's a thought for today. I need to be controlled by Christ, not by my appetites. Pray this as we finish today. God, help me to seek you and to find your strength to keep my appetites from controlling my life. God bless you today.